Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, here to look ahead to the League Cup round of 16 matches that will take place this weekend. Obviously a big chance for clubs across the country to make their way towards the latter stages of this tournament. 2 games away from Hampden, despite only just coming through the group stage phase of this competition. We've got Aberdeen, Celtic, Rangers and Motherwell entering the competition, as well as 12 successful participants from the group stage of this tournament. Plenty of talking points, plenty of departures going on in the wake of this week and heading into the weekend. And some of the fixtures, we'll go through them just now. Alloa, Athletic, Hearts, Arbroath, Dunfermline, Hibs v Dundee, Livingston versus Ayr United, Mull, St Johnstone and St Mirren Aberdeen rounds off the Saturday's action. And then on the Sunday, the 2 European teams, Celtic and Rangers, are in action due to their involvement in the Europa League on Thursday, which means Ross County and Falkirk need to wait an extra day for their matches. Ross County heading to Parkhead before then. Probably the most cup tie, if you will, fixture of the round. Falkirk of League One hosting Rangers, the informed team in Scotland just now. Go through these one by one. We'll also hear from players and managers from across the Premiership. We'll start with Alloa Athletic versus Hearts, an all-championship tie, the first of 2 of them. So at least 2 championship teams will be in the last 8 of this competition, which makes it slightly interesting. Hearts probably expected to win this one pretty comfortably, I think would be the correct statement.
I would disagree. I've not been overly impressed by Hearts this season. I think when they've been good, but when they've been poor, they've been pretty damn poor. So it depends on what Hearts show up to the Wrekin Saturday. I don't think it's as straightforward as they just need to show up and that's them through. Peter Grant's got a good side at Alloa. They tend to get pretty decent results at home. So, yeah, I think it's a tough one.
I think it'll be a tough one, but I mean, the thing with Hearts is perhaps, they beat Alloa during the week. 3-0, I think it was, but Hearts again coming under criticism from their own fans after that one, perhaps being a bit pedestrian, a bit slow. They were also beaten in the Championship for the first time last Friday against Dunfermline. And fans, I don't think they're so much unhappy. They've won their first 8 games and they beat Alloa 3-0. It wasn't like it was a terrible result, but perhaps just want to see a bit more attacking impetus from their side. Obviously beat Dundee 6-2. Josh Ginnelly was one that was a big player in that for them, and he's been injured for a wee couple of weeks now, and they've probably missed his attacking pace in recent weeks. Arbroath, talking about Dunfermline, they've travelled to Arbroath. Big one for Stevie Crawford's side. You would like to think, given the start to their season, they would really be targeting the quarterfinals of this tournament, potentially. Given if they get the draw going well for them, potentially a bit further than that.
Yeah, Dunfermline going to this one surely as favourites, and again, I think you look at how they've been performing this season, they've been really, really good at times. The result against Hearts just shows you just how good a side they can be. So, yes, I think Dunfermline will be favourites to go through, but it's another tough one. Dick Campbell's sides are never easy to beat. There's a reason why they've kind of punched above their weight a bit in the Championship and they kind of clung on. So, yeah, it's far from a certainty, but I think Dunfermline should probably go through that one.
Hibs Dundee, next 4 fixtures we'll talk about, we will be at on the Saturday. So those fixtures being Hibs Dundee, Livingston United, Mull, St Johnstone and St Mirren Aberdeen. We will have reports, reaction from those matches. In Hibs Dundee, we're speaking to Jack Ross and club captain of Hibs, David Gray. Before this one, obviously big news coming out of Easter Road that Chief Executive Leanne Dempster is set to leave the club. Reports as we record this, I don't know if you've read these, but there are some reports banding about that perhaps Queen's Park is her next destination. How true they are, I don't know. I've literally just read them before we go on this, but obviously it's a massive blow for Hibs. She's did a very good job there. She's overseen there. She obviously went in when they went down to the Championship, and she's built them back up to where Hibs should be, fighting for third, doing well in cup competitions, and then they'll be hoping from this season on a return to European football on a regular basis. But Jack Ross and club captain David Gray fairly shocked about the news. Jack Ross explained his feelings on it, and David Gray likewise.
Absolutely. I think very surprised. on a personal level, I'm disappointed as well, just because she'll be a massive loss to the club, from my opinion. I think she's done an unbelievable job, and will be very difficult to replace. I think she's done, as I say, an excellent job over the years. And from when I first came in, I think I was one of the first signings. And from the job she inherited to what she's done now, I think she deserves immense credit and fully deserves all the credit she can get for that. Oh, definitely not. Especially having just been relegated as well. Just been relegated, and there was Rangers and Hearts also in the Championship as well. So it was always going to be a very difficult season. But at the same time, a team like Hibs have got such high standards and demand, so it was always a difficult appointment for her. But I think, as you can see, it was a successful one. Had some great nights and occasions at Easter Road since she's been at the club. So, as I say, she's done an unbelievable job, and she'll be definitely missed.
Well, I think to begin with, I think obviously when I took the job, there was a new structure had just probably been put in place at the club. So in Graham Matthews' role as sport director has meant that my interaction with Leanne has probably been less than I think maybe some previous managers have had because of Graham's new position at the club. However, that's not to say that her and I haven't had a good working relationship and have had regular communication. And I knew Leanne to an extent before I came to the club, and that was part of the attraction in the first place. And then also when I spoke to the club, initially I spoke to Leanne on more than one occasion, and again, the opinion I had of her from previously knowing her was only reinforced by when I met her. And I think that her legacy is the thing that will be the strongest thing. I think that she'll leave here. I think the work that she has done and the success the club has had in that period, and then where she leaves the club is in a really good place. So undoubtedly will be a miss for all at the club. Spoke with her for a while yesterday, so I know that I think when that moment comes when she leaves the club, I think obviously she'll find it hard because how big a part it's been of her life for the last 6.5 years.
So I think Leanne Dempster's done a very good job at Hibs. She started obviously at Motherwell. Probably Motherwell fans have a bit mixed feelings towards Leanne Dempster just because they had that really great team that got Motherwell to the Champions League and things like that, and they probably didn't profit as much as they should have off that team. The likes of Jamie Murphy, Darren Randolph going for minimal fees, some of them not going for anything. But she's gone to Hibs and she's done a very good job. They've won the Scottish Cup. They've got themselves back out the Championship. They were in a bit of a sorry place, Hibs, when Leanne Dempster came in, and I think it's been noted that a manager needs a good chief executive to do their role properly. And Jack Ross has been doing fairly well in the last year. So Leanne Dempster's touch obviously rubbing off.
Does she take the stick for Heckingbottom then?
Well, that was also brought up in when David Gray and Jack Ross were being asked about it. Obviously, she has overseen a fair few managerial changes. We've seen Alan Stubbs go in, we've seen Paul Heckingbottom, and now Jack Ross as well. It has not all of it's been a success. I think Jack Ross is probably the one that looks most likely to stay there for 3 or 4 years. But I don't think it can be denied how good a job she's done. Obviously, the big one's the Scottish Cup. I think she's on record as saying it's probably the highlight of her career so far, that success at Hibs. She's done a very good job. Hibs are in a much better place than they were a few years ago when she came in, and she'll not be short of offers, but I mean...
Well, if Queen's Park's her next destination, I would suggest that she probably is short of offers.
I think in the general she won't be. I mean, she's done a very good job at a decent club. I wouldn't be surprised if, and I know it's a bit different from players' transfers and things like that, but I wouldn't be surprised going down south. There's an option for her if there was an opening down there. But as well as that, the SPFL has also been one mooted that perhaps Leanne Dempster, that's a ready fit role for her. But she also did say in her statement she wanted more time with family. I doubt she'd get that as chief executive of the SPFL. I'll
be honest, I think Leanne Dempster's pretty much largely overrated in Scottish football by a lot of people. She's done some good stuff. She's also done some really quite shonky stuff. And, good luck to wherever she goes, but I don't think it's an overly big loss for anybody. I think Hibs will replace her and Hibs will go on plodding along at roughly the same place they are now. I don't think she can overly take much credit for getting Hibs back to any particularly great place. They're back where they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. getting them out the Championship, I mean, great. That's
the thing is that Hibs went.
Holding Craig Levein up as some kind of mastermind for helping getting Hearts out the Championship as director of football.
Hibs were in a bit of a sorry state.
Hibs remain in a bit of a sorry state. You just need to look at the comments regarding the club's future that's come out in recent months and how Hibs, of all the Premiership clubs, I would argue, Hibs are probably the one who have, Hibs and Aberdeen actually, are the two that have very much been manning the lifeboats in terms of the outcomes of COVID. So yeah, her demise for me is greatly over-exaggerated.
I wouldn't go as far to call it a demise. I think by the sound of it, she's walked of her own accord and clearly wants a new challenge of sorts. As I'll reiterate, I think she's done a very good job there, and by the sounds of it, and by the people who spoke to at Hibs, they think as well. I've seen one as well.
Nobody throw her under the bus.
I've seen as well. Some saying that perhaps one of the more important signings at that club in recent years, which probably says as much about how they think of her. Which I suppose, you can debate all you want, but if the club are happy and are going to be sad to see her go, then I suppose that's the opinion.
They'll always be happy publicly.
We don't know. I think she's done a good job, and I think people at the club genuinely feel that. Livingston v Ayr United, the big one with name's Gary Holt. We have got a full-length video on that discussing sort of what goes next for Livingston, what goes next for Gary Holt. It was linked with the Shrewsbury job, but that's quickly been put under the water with Steve Cotterill has been appointed manager there. So won't be a quick fire return as some thought for Gary Holt, but it's a first job for David Martindale. He's obviously interim coach there, interim head coach. They play Ayr United. Bit of a banana skin tie, this Mark Kerr's side doing a bit better. I don't think the results have been particularly terrible in the Championship this season, but they also haven't really hit top form. So it'll be a tough one for Livingston, also given just off the back of the turbulent few days they've had.
I wouldn't be shocked if Ayr go through this one.
I'd be less shocked than we say at the start of the week. Yeah, Billy.
No, I'm not even. I wouldn't even say I'd be more shocked as a result of the change in management. I just think, with Livingston's form and the way things have been for them just now, it's very much heads are down, and there's almost time to kind of look beaten before they even take to the pitch. And David Martindale's not going to do anything to change that for me.
I don't know how quickly that process goes, because I think they're wanting somebody, basically a head coach who can slot into the.
And that to me is stupidity. I mean,
that's what they've done for the last few. I think they did that through Hopkin, Kenny Miller, and now obviously Gary Holt.
And the problem is there's a common denominator there with managers that are coming in, and with the greatest respect, I think this is purely me speculating here, but they're getting to a point where you can kind of see them getting a bit frustrated with things, and having your director of football, your head of football operations, essentially mandate that he as your assistant manager can't be entirely helpful for a manager.
Yeah, I don't know, but obviously I think that as well, if David Martindale and obviously the coaching setup, obviously it's worked. Clearly, I mean, they've stayed up in the Premiership. They got to 5th place last year, so it has worked to some extent, but it surely will limit the amount of managerial candidates. A Tommy Wright, an experienced guy who's been in and around the fair bit of football clubs and seen a lot in the game, aren't going to want to slot into a club where they can't bring their own staff and things like that. So I think that probably does limit the pool of potential managers they can bring in. From the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like it'll be anybody from inside the club. I don't think Marvin Bartley is.
No, it could. I mean,
Marvin Bartley's one that's been. I think he has ruled himself out, and I think other coaches at the club have distanced themselves from it as well.
Well, the thing is, in terms of other coaches there, who have they really got? And with the greatest respect to them all, it's not going to be Tony Craig, because goalkeepers don't tend to normally kind of do that. And it's a weird thing, you never really see many ex-goalkeepers go from being like a goalkeeping coach, like a specialised coach, to then taking on management roles. They tend to kind of find themselves in that niche forever. So yeah, I mean, other than that, it's David Martindale, and I'm trying to bite my lip on this, but yeah, that's.
Well, please do, and we'll move on to the game at Fir Park, Mull versus St Johnstone. A repeat of the fixture last weekend. If it's anything by the sounds of what I watched last weekend, then it'll be a sticky, tough game. Obviously, this one's at Fir Park. It's in a cup competition, maybe slightly different circumstances as well for this one. It'll be tight. Mull, some may argue, are slight favourites given they finished third, have been fairly decent in cup competitions under Stephen Robinson, and have home advantage given the current circumstances. But St Johnstone will also fancy their chances of getting through here, considering they were on the unseeded side of the draw. They've avoided Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Aberdeen, but Mull's probably another one they might have liked to have avoided. Regardless, we heard from Mull manager Stephen Robinson and defender Ricki Lamie ahead of the game.
Yeah, I think it would be the perfect remedy for hard times at the moment. I'm sure every club's thinking exactly the same, so certainly we're not unique to that. But it lifts everybody winning football matches. It's people's life. We've had some fans in the stadium recently, talking about their experiences over lockdown and missing the club, and I'm sure throughout football that's exactly the same. So we've been given something to cheer about, and obviously a cup run is the perfect way to do it. Yeah, I'm not sure how many of them there is. I think was there maybe 2, 3 boys that are still involved. So that shows the turnaround of players each year here. But the ones that are here and the staff, obviously, that are still here, fantastic memories. But you want to do that again. You want to go and achieve that again. And as I say, I know what it does to the football club. You see the players that have been put in a platform. We've got international footballers from that. We've got sales from that. We've got players that move on to bigger and better things. And it brings revenue into the football club at a time where that's vital.
Aye. Hopefully, been in the squad tomorrow. So it's been frustrating, obviously, with a couple of international breaks, and it was just a really bad timing in terms of an injury. Just adds to the frustration. I never like being injured at the best of times, but with a wee gap in the games and stuff, it was a bit frustrating for myself. But a couple of last week and this week, joined back in with the boys and really go. I think obviously whatever competition you go into, you try and get as far as you can, but especially as a championship side, realistic that you might, if the draw's not favourable, it might be an early exit. But I think that year, we managed to dodge the big guns up until obviously, I think it was a Rangers and Celtic semi-final, and then ourselves and Aberdeen that year. So it was pretty sided in terms of the draw, and we managed to get ourselves there. So that was a good occasion, something you always remember.
In the 5:15 kickoff in Paisley, it's St Mirren v Aberdeen, one that I'll be at to see if St Mirren can make their way past the Dons and into the quarterfinals of the Cup. Aberdeen, seen them in midweek as well. It was a bit stop-start for them, really. They've also been hit with news today, as we record this, that Scott Wright's going to be out until the new year. The double hernia operation, a real blow for him personally. He's obviously fought back from that really bad knee injury, hit form, and then another bad operation for him. So best wishes to him. But on the game, St Mirren, probably again, tough test for them. They played Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup last season, was extremely tight, perhaps a missed opportunity for them given Aberdeen didn't play all that well. St Mirren as well, perhaps a wee bit better on the night. Aberdeen still managed to get through. However, yeah, it's a very tight one. This Aberdeen haven't been great in the last couple of weeks because of their COVID problems. St Mirren unbeaten in 6.
I think it's not just Aberdeen's COVID problems that's hurt them. I just think Aberdeen haven't been particularly good recently. Last weekend against Rangers, you can make all the excuses you want regards COVID. That wasn't why Aberdeen were so spineless and capitulated at Ibrox last weekend. It was a very, very poor performance for a group of players who some are adamant are probably the third best group in the country. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think they've got some really good individual players, but I think on the whole are a bit overhyped. I wouldn't be too sure. This is going to be one where McInnes needs a reaction. I think it needs a reaction after the Ibrox game, because if they play half as badly as they did at Ibrox, St Mirren could comfortably beat them.
Yeah, I think St Mirren have got a fairly decent chance in this one. St Mirren's one that we spoke about at the start of the season as if they can keep their defensive line fit, they don't need to score 2 and 3 goals. Clearly, Jim Goodwin in his side have struggled with goals. He's accounted that himself, and given the fact that they don't look like they're going to score 2 and 3 goals every weekend, they do need to keep clean sheets at the other end. That's been a problem with them, given the amount of suspensions and COVID problems they've had. But now they are starting to get that settled back line again. You can see these clean sheets being grinded out again. The 0-0 draw with Dundee United. The Queen's Park result, although wasn't a great performance, but they still managed to grind out a win with 10 men. Then they went to Livingston, won 1-0. I think it'll be that sort of game again. Personally, for me, Ryan Hedges is the one for Aberdeen that looks very good just now. If he isn't firing, again, he pretty much did everything in attack for them. Given Scott Wright's out, they really need Sam Cosgrove and co to kick into gear as well. So a really interesting one. This, looking forward to that. And then on the Sunday, Ross County v Celtic. Obviously, on Not the Old Firm, we will focus on the Staggies, but it is hard to, with how much is riding on this game, which sounds very odd, because in a normal season, Celtic v Ross County in the last 16 would just be our bog standard League Cup game, where you would expect Celtic to come in and win 3 or 4-0, progress to the quarterfinals like they have done in pretty much every major competition domestically for the last couple of seasons. Although Ross County have not been in great form recently, they must be smelling blood going into this.
I think there's far less riding on this game than people want to give credit just now. I think in the grand scheme of things, I mean, at least from Celtic's perspective, it's utterly meaningless. I know the fans will be on about they want to continue their run to win another domestic trophies, but if Celtic lose to County, I don't think it changes anything for Celtic. The fans will still be whining, and Peter Lawwell and Dermot Desmond will still be ignoring them. So nothing. I don't think anything changes in that regard. From County's perspective, it's a big one for them, because you get that win over one half of the Old Firm, regardless of whether they're in crisis and the papers have got cracked badges in the back pages or not. It's still a win over one half of the Old Firm. So to do that in the Cup and move into the quarter-finals would be really good for County, especially on the back of the recent form. We've not been good as of late. They started the season really well, and probably fair to say they've fallen away almost completely recently.
Yeah, it's a shame, because I actually thought a lot of people had picked Ross County to go down at the start of the season, and it looked at September, we all looked to be going, oh well, we were very wrong. But now we've got to the sort of start of December time, we went, oh well, maybe we weren't actually so wrong, it was just a purple patch of form. It wasn't shying his criticism of these players last week after they get beat off 10 men. They played 10 men for pretty much an entire game and get played off the park by Kilmarnock. I think he's quoted as saying, it's not a direct quote, but pretty much one of the worst results he's had in his 12-year association with Ross County. So to then follow that up by going to Celtic Park and win, regardless of whether Celtic are in crisis mode or playing on the top of their form, I think for sides like Ross County and that, it doesn't matter if Celtic have lost the last 6 games in a row 6-0. They're still, if they turn up on the day, Celtic even half turn up on the day, they'll get the result. And that's the challenge for Ross County. They need to put in the best game in this season. And Celtic, whilst they have not been good this season, need to turn in their worst performance of the season. Although I think some fans that will watch this may agree that it can't get much worse. But yeah, tough one for Ross County. And if they get through, a very good result for them. And then finally, Falkirk Rangers, is the final game to round off the weekend before the quarter-final draw. I know that's one that you're going to be at, James, and one you're looking forward to. Is you've watched Falkirk for how long now? Just over a year. And seen them against Hearts in the Scottish Cup last year. They fared pretty well against Premiership opposition, albeit Rangers are going to be an entirely different kettle of fish to what Hearts brought earlier this year.
Completely. I mean, going into that Hearts game in January, I think we were both at it. I'm sure we kind of spoke at the time that there was a potential for a shock there. Even the most optimistic of Falkirk fans won't be sitting here today thinking, we could snatch something. So, I mean, with the greatest respect to Falkirk, I'm down there constantly. Spoke to David McCracken during the week about the game. And yeah, they're on a hiding to nothing almost. I'd like to think that we'll come out and, I mean, Falkirk are a team who are going into most games as the overwhelming, well, maybe not overwhelming favourite, but certainly favourites in the league. So it's going to be an odd position for them to be going into one where when they're overwhelming underdogs. I mean, there's not even, the Rangers could put out a second or third string 11 on Sunday, and you would still go, that's a good Rangers team. They'll probably have enough about them to brush Falkirk aside. So I think it's all about the performance for Falkirk more than anything else on Sunday. It's going to be one for cracks and 3 mil to point these players kind of later in the season and go, that's the benchmark. That's what you guys should be striving for. You've seen how good, like, the best team in the country are doing it. So that's the high watermark. And I think it'll be really handy for Falkirk in that regard. But there's a potential for a cricket score there.
I hope not from a Falkirk perspective. They have been very well very well in the league this season. The thing with them is that they can't let it, regardless of what happens, whether they put in a good performance and still get beat, or whether, I don't want to sound like I've just written them off already. I mean, who knows? I think if Falkirk were to win this, given the form Rangers have been on, I think it'd be fair to say it'd be the best cup shock in a very, very long time. I can't remember.
From a Rangers perspective, it would be the biggest cup shock I can think of from Hamilton Accies in 86, 88, late 80s, whenever it was. Whenever Adrian broke.
I think there's been bigger like disparities in cup ties. Like you obviously had like Fraserburgh and stuff, Rangers in the Scottish Cup, but with how well this Rangers team is playing, they're playing at an elite Champions League level. That if a League One team managed to topple them and be the first team to beat them, I think that would just be incredible. Well, obviously we hope for a decent enough day for the Bairns. We heard from Falkirk co-manager David McCracken and Bairns playmaker Blair Alston ahead of the match.
Kind of layoff through COVID and everything, but we're on a kind of decent run of form now. There's a few boys playing it a really good standard in the team just now. We've had a couple of decent results. Obviously last weekend and then the midweek game was really good for us to obviously take us at the moment. We'll see obviously what happens at the weekend with all the league games that are going on. But no, we're in a good place just now. And there's loads of stuff that we want to improve on, but we're doing fine just now. I wouldn't say don't. You know what I mean? And we're trying to reiterate that to the boys. You know what I mean? It's a big game. It's a great opportunity for some of them to play against the standard of Rangers. But we've been there before, myself and Lee. A few other boys in the team also get Blair on here as well. We know that it's achievable to get a result, but at the same time you've got to respect the standard that Rangers are playing at. They are without doubt the kind of informed team in the country just now. Whether or not after tonight's game, if there's a few changes and stuff like that, there's still going to be a high standard of player that's going to come into the team against us on Sunday. So, we need to prep for that, and we are already doing that, and we will for the next couple of days in training. But, for us, it's more about explaining to the boys, it's a great opportunity to go and show where we've come as a team since last year, and take the opportunity and enjoy the game, enjoy the chance to play against Rangers.
Obviously it's good. I think that sort of from the start of the season we've performed well, and we've sort of gradually got better as well. I think performances have been a lot stronger, especially since the sort of cup games, and I think clean sheets have been good as well. I think we probably looked vulnerable at times at the start of the season, and since then we've looked really solid. So we go into it in good form, but obviously they're going to be massive favourites. It's going to be a sort of mammoth task to try and get something from the game, but there's no reason why we can't. I think probably when they first came back up, they were almost looked at a team where you thought if they catch you on a good day, it's obviously going to be a difficult game, but you always felt that there was going to be opportunities against them. But I think now they sort of look like they're steamrolling teams like week in, week out, and I think they've probably got a lot stronger strength and depth. They're making lots of changes for Europe, cup games, everything, and it seems to sort of not be affecting them. So I think that it's going to be a difficult game, there's no getting away from it, but like I said, it's one of those games you can only approach it the best you can, go into it, and we've got nothing to lose, nothing to fear, so we just need to go and try and do the best we possibly can and put our game plan as much into places and try to stop them as well.
Right, I think that's us. As the light in this room just slowly descends into darkness, and I get in this white shirt I'm wearing just gets brighter and brighter. Who do you think will be in the last 8 draw on Sunday?
All the big teams, pretty much, with one or two exceptions. Rangers go through, Celtic go through, Dunfermline go through. I expect Hibs will go through in what's going to be the most boring cup game ever because we watched it last week anyway. Livingston Ayr is the one out of them all, probably. Livingston Ayr and Alloa Hearts, the two games where it looks close. Set my neck in the line. Ayr go through, Hearts go through.
Right. Well, I'll be completely boring. This is going to sound like the most boring prediction ever, but this is I think Hearts, Dunfermline, Hibs, Livingston, Motherwell St Johnson's the one I can't really call. That's one I could see going the distance given the couple of games they've played this season. That one's the one for me that could go either way. I'll edge it to Motherwell just on the fact that the last time they played at Fir Park they seemed to be a bit more compact defensively. I think St Mirren will beat Aberdeen from what I've seen in the two sides recently, and Celtic and Rangers. So Hearts, Dunfermline, Hibs, Livingston, Motherwell, St Mirren, Celtic, Rangers.
For pure entertainment value, I do want Ross County to win because this meltdown this week has been bloody glorious.
If Ross County win on Sunday, regardless of what happens in every other match, you know what the headlines are going to be on Monday morning. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. And we've also not got that long. I don't think the last 8 fixtures are that far in the distance. It's only like a month away or something before there.
Something like that.
So not very long to wait for these clubs, and obviously I think some of them might be glad because we're hitting December now and the calendar gets a little busy. As you'll see here on Not the Old Firm, we hope you have enjoyed our preview of the weekend's action. Do remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video. We've had let's just say a couple of frustrating knockbacks on the interview front this month.
But we do have big positive news to come soon. So
but yes,
keep that from now.
Yeah, we have been hard at work on stuff behind the scenes as we look to upgrade the channel and upgrade our website and our overall brand. And we have something that we are both, you can tell by my big grin, I am very excited about. But that will be all made clear in the next couple of weeks. And if you watch these videos regularly, then you'll see me gloat about it over the next wee while as well. But remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and until next time, take it easy.